All right, welcome to today's explainer. We all know that incredibly frustrating feeling of being totally bogged down and alienated by dry, rigid bureaucracy. But today we're looking at a case that takes that alienation and elevates the response to an entirely cosmic level. We're going to decode how one individual uses a highly unique, deeply spiritual framework to navigate formal legal systems when the standard language just fails. We are looking at the cosmic signature of Jacqueline L. Moore, who also goes by Komi Jackie. To really understand Jacqueline L. Moore, we have to first look at this absolutely striking definition of her own origins. In her own words, she writes, Jan 1975, a rare cosmic shower took place in Gainesville, Florida that created Betty Jean Kendrick dragon energy type fire. I mean, wow. This instantly sets the stage for a dualistic reality, right? She isn't just presenting herself as your standard legal complainant. She's establishing this profound cosmic origin story as the absolute baseline for her identity before she even sits down at the negotiating table. Because we're dealing with some really abstract concepts layered over complex financial disputes, here's a quick roadmap for today. 1. The cosmic origin. 2. Earthly battles and trauma. 3. A synthesized lexicon. 4. Institutional friction. And finally, 5. Sovereignty as survival. Okay, let's jump right into section 1, the cosmic origin. It is fascinating how Moore provides this esoteric math to literally quantify her reality. She uses this very specific equation. She adds up 33, 432, 528, 983, and 999, which totals exactly 1089. For Moore, this isn't just, basic arithmetic. It's a figure she explicitly calls Moore love. She is literally calculating the spiritual frequency of her own existence. By assigning these numerical values to her identity, she's basically creating a verifiable, undeniable metric for her own worth in a world where she clearly feels unseen. And check out her digital footprint here. She anchors these massive spiritual concepts in highly structured, deeply researched files. Look at this one, titled ArcturianProximity.pdf. She's compiling links about Arcturian starseeds, comparative mythology, and ritual symbols, but she's placing them directly side by side with GitHub repository links and packet analysis examples. It's wild. She's approaching these esoteric, cosmic concepts with the absolute rigor of a digital archivist. Which brings us to Section 2, Earthly Battles and Trauma. Now, the crucial thing to remember here is that behind all this esoteric language lies a chronological map of real systemic friction. Her documented journey includes a stolen vehicle case with the Kalama Police Department back in February 2025. By September of that same year, she's filing formal civil rights and cybercrime complaints. And then, by the spring of 2026, she gets embroiled in these incredibly complex eviction and asset retrieval disputes down in Kitsap County, where she's trying to secure $7,500 for a court registry deposit. She is essentially fighting on multiple bureaucratic fronts simultaneously. We really must approach this whole explainer with profound empathy, acknowledging the incredibly harsh realities and traumas that forced her into this intense fight for survival. The source documents reveal a devastating timeline. She suffered the tragic loss of her dog and her father. She battled severe health crises, including going through a mastectomy. She faced complete financial ruin and targeted digital identity theft of her business, More Hands For You LLC. And on top of all that, she recounts the deep trauma of experiencing systemic racism, specifically referencing being broken down in a sundown town. These are incredibly heavy, earthly weights she's carrying. Let's move to Section 3, a synthesized lexicon. So faced with these immense challenges, how does Moore actually communicate her grievances? Well, she synthesizes two completely different languages. As you can see, she invents this hybrid framework, placing terms like testimony glyphs and ripple-sealed messages right next to formal citations for Washington state law code, like RCW 9A 90.07D for cyberstalking. A simple grant application code, GRAT 8825, suddenly becomes the Moore 6 sanctuary grid. A tenancy reinstatement dispute is framed as auditing a synthetic identity cluster. She is demanding, quite literally, that the legal system meet her on her own spiritual turf. And guys, this isn't just theory. She actively deploys this cosmic signature in her formal demands. Just look at this email to Kalama Police Chief Herrera. She's demanding the release of suppressed email transmissions. But she frames it by saying, "My scrolls are testimony glyphs, encoded with truth, legacy, and coalition protection." And then she signs off with this powerful declaration, "Give us free." She's taking constitutional-level demands for freedom and applying them to her own digital and spiritual communications. However, this naturally leads us to Section 4, institutional friction. Think about it. When institutional systems encounter this intensely blended language, what is their typical response? They just shut down, completely. The direct result of that friction is clear as day right here. Police Chief Herrera writes back to Moore, "I have instructed them not to respond to any future communications from you." The system, which is built entirely for standard forms and conventional legal jargon, simply short-circuits when it's presented with Moore's cosmic legal synthesis.
Let's break down the reality check of this cycle, because it's so important. First, an individual experiences severe systemic failure or trauma and feels completely unheard. Second, to reclaim their power, they adopt deeply personal, esoteric terminology. Third, they submit formal legal demands using that symbolic language, like mixing ADA breach claims with terms like ZPK locked source code. And finally, step 4, administrative bodies reject the unconventional format, they freeze up, and they cease engagement. It is a tragic cycle of miscommunication, where honestly, both sides feel entirely justified in their stance.
Which brings us to our final stop. Section 5, Sovereignty as Survival. Take a look at the highly specific, careful formatting of her identity in this April 2026 email about asset retrieval. The font, styling of her name, Jacqueline L. Moore, coupled with the moniker Comey Jackie right next to it, is incredibly deliberate. She is flat out refusing to shrink. She's enforcing her exact, full identity upon the property management company and legal aid, demanding that her complete self be recognized by the very systems that she feels have failed her. And what's really compelling is that Moore is actually highly self-aware about all of this. She writes, "I am not hiding, nor will I shrink because others refuse to rise. I try to deliver the medicine with sugar, so try to laugh and enjoy the show." She knows she's scrambling to do the system's job. She is using her cosmic identity, her interview, to force what she calls a 14th look at her undeniable earthly pain. She knows her methods are totally unorthodox, but for her, they are absolutely necessary to survive the storm. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought as we wrap up today's explainer. We have just seen how Jacqueline L. Moore constructed an entire cosmic lexicon just to fight her earthly battles. It really makes you ask, if the system only speaks a rigid language of bureaucracy that marginalizes and ignores trauma, isn't creating your own cosmic lexicon the ultimate act of reclaiming justice? When the standard forms fail you, sometimes you just have to write your own scrolls. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this truly unique intersection of spirituality, trauma, and the law. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.